Welcome to my allotment. Today I'm going to be talking about if you're a newbie. I'm seeing lots and lots of people saying they've just got their first allotment and they feel really overwhelmed. So I'm going to try and put your mind at rest and make you believe that you definitely can do the allotment. If you've not already subscribed to my channel, if you're a newbie, this would definitely be a good start because you'll get lots of helpful hints and tips from my home garden, my allotment and also my home kitchen. Now, lots of people feel overwhelmed at the start of the year or when they get their first allotment, and if I'm really honest, most years when I embark on it back again after the winter, I feel a little bit overwhelmed as well. You can't imagine getting all of it done and you can't imagine that you're going to fill it all, but the reality is every single year I not only fill my allotment but I also often wish that I had more. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, you're in good company, because if most gardeners are honest that have an allotment, they probably feel a little bit overwhelmed too. Now, my top tips are, I often see lots of people putting in hours and hours of work in initially, and then they get bored, they don't come back and they see the weeds growing, and they don't keep the momentum up. Well, the best thing to do is to do little and often. I have never spent hours and hours and hours up here gardening. I do a little bit at a time, you know, consistent effort, and I'm talking about hour windows, sometimes barely that. Well, I'll dash up here, I'll get a few jobs done and then I'll go. You know, if you look at everything that you've got to do, it will seem like a momentous task, but if you break it down over a period of weeks, you'll definitely get there. I mean, the good news is it's right at the start of the season, so you've got loads of time, you know, and although it's really great to start things off from seed, you don't have to start everything off from seed. You can buy some plants already started off. The only thing to bear in mind is you want to get them for a good price, otherwise they can be expensive vegetables. But if it gets you going in your first year, so you don't have to start everything off yourself or swap with friends and family and a lot of other allotment holders, that can take the pressure off. Also, expectation. Don't necessarily expect everything to be a storming success and for things not to get nibbled or not grow as well. You will get some things that don't grow great every year. It happens to me. Not everything grows the way I want it to, but as long as I get plenty of food for me to eat, and I do, enough for me and enough for me to share with friends and family, then it's been a result, and I'm sure the same will be for you too. So when I first got my allotment, I worked this around a job in the city, so I worked for a law firm now, and I still managed to look after my allotment at the same time. Now, I must admit, I do work more flexibly, and that does make life a lot easier. So if you're really passionate about your allotment and you feel like your everyday life is getting in the way of it, then create a lifestyle that's better for you. That's what I did. If you're curious about how I earn my money, I will put a link in the description so you can see what I do and see how it works for me. So the other thing to bear in mind is to get the right tools for the job, you know, and to get ground cover. So if you've got the right tools initially to start off with, then that makes life a lot easier. A really good hoe to get the weeds. It's a little bit like me doing my hoovering up at the allotment. Rather than getting my hoover out at the allotment, I'll get my hoe out just to take the tops off the weeds. That can save you an awful lot of time. Something else that saves me a tremendous amount of time is ground cover. Now, I use ground cover over the winter months to stop the weeds from growing, and I can't exactly remember when I started doing it. I didn't initially do it when I first got my allotment, but at some point I decided to give it a go. And if you get really good quality ground cover, you buy it and you use it every year. So you lay it down at the end of the season and then you lift it back up in the spring when you start to plant, and you literally don't lift it up until you're ready to plant, because as soon as spring hits, that's when everything starts growing really quickly. So although I might lift it and maybe dig it and put some fertilizers in, I'll then cover it back until I'm actually ready to plant, because once you start planting and the plants start growing, the weeds aren't so bad. Another thing on expectation with weeds, guess what? They're going to grow. Get over it. You've just got to keep them down as best you can. Unless you're retired and you can pick out every single weed, there are going to be some weeds on the allotment, and the only people that have completely weed-free allotments are generally people that are retired. But us working folk just have to do the best we can with weeds and just keep them so that the plants that you're growing, the vegetables and the fruit, do better than the weeds do. So I really hope that that's given you some tips, and it's going to inspire you and stop you from feeling a little bit overwhelmed, and you'll get going and you'll have an awesome year with growing things.